All right, everybody. We got another very special guest for y'all. I want everybody to welcome back to the show, David Whalen. What's going on, David?
Hey, Chris. Hey, Mike. Thanks again for having me back on the show. I really appreciate it. Good to talk to you.
Yeah, good to see you again, and thanks for being here. And I have to make a comment on your Eternia shirt. That's pretty
Oh,
awesome.
yeah, thanks. Yeah.
And we talked about a little bit on our, I think it was our last episode, Chris, the new live action He-Man movie that's coming out.
Mhm.
Um,
Idris Elba.
yeah, Idris Elba is going to be playing Man at Arms, so I was pretty pumped about that. I don't know if you heard anything about it, but
I just saw that last night. I can get behind that casting. That's pretty solid
yeah.
casting.
I was like, I don't know who would have played Man at Arms. Then they said that, and I was like, oh shit, yeah, Idris Elba for sure.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. We'll
It's
take
a
it.
pretty good one. Yeah. All right, man. Well, we're happy to have you back. You've done quite a few. Well, every time we talk to you, you've done quite a few issues of The Offspring.
Mhm.
I feel like it's what you do about 5 or 6 a year,
I try to
pretty much.
get at least 5 issues done a year, and being a
Yeah.
one-man band with a wife and full-time job and 2 kids, sometimes that's a little tough.
Yeah.
But I can usually do it pretty successfully to varying degrees.
Yeah. That's pretty impressive for getting all that out, and holding all that other stuff down. So
Thank you.
kudos to that. All right. So the latest issue is 28,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
Now I know we might hopefully have some new fans of the podcast since then, but give us the lowdown on what the Offspring is, and then we'll talk about like where the story's at.
Yeah, The Offspring is, like I said, 28 issues in. I'm pretty big time into the overall arching story of the 50 issues that I plan to get out over the next, probably be done over the next 5 years,
Hmm.
with the whole story of The Offspring. And really what it's about is about, to begin with, three of the main characters who are in their early 20s, who come together because of a shared trauma in their past, whether they're physically, mentally, or emotionally abused as kids. They meet at an alternative school, and then they kind of start to realize that they are developing the superpowers and developing kind of like a mental ESP with each other. So no matter where they are, when they were little kids, as 20-year-olds, if they separate and they go live in other places, they can still kind of feel each other, and they all kind of always come back together to each other. As they meet up to help one of their old friends from the alternative school find his little brother who'd been kidnapped. The powers and their mental links start to grow, and they realize that they're kind of a magnet for monsters and mythological creatures and godlike creatures that are trying to like mess with their lives and really trying to just make their lives harder. As it continues through Omnibus 1, issues 1 through 13, and Omnibus 2, 14 through, oh gosh, 25, um, they realize that they are actually missing one of their members of their little group that have these powers and this mental link to each other. So they go on a road trip to be able to search for this missing member. And as they get closer and closer to her, they start to realize that their powers are growing even more, and then they start to develop the not the ability, but develop this reason for having to like time travel back into other lifetimes because they realize that they are like reincarnated through time over millions and billions of years, and they start time traveling backwards into all of the lives that they have lived through the entire existence of the universe.
Uh, yeah, it's pretty awesome. And I think the latest issue 28 is focusing a lot more on the time travel too, right? Because you have
Does.
some
Yeah,
middle
I'm deep
ages
in the
and
time
stuff. Yeah.
travel. In Omnibus 2, I did the first time travel into the American Civil War, and they
Hmm.
were in the Deep South, and they met for the first time, the bad guy that is driving this current story arc, the Eternity Man, who was trying to use the kids and their powers for his own selfish gain. He's actually even being kind of manipulated by one of the godlike creatures, the that I call the Inasal. And he is the Inasal. This one godlike creature is called the Malice Inasal, and there's the Fight Inasal, the Child Inasal, the Wisdom Inasal, and the Nurture Inasal. And the Malice Inasal is kind of like the puppeteer, like manipulating the whole situation for whatever reason we don't quite know yet.
So, yeah, we got you. You said there's the malice in us all that's kind of orchestrating everything, and they need to figure out why.
Yeah, the whole story really is kind of an analogy for how life is not fair.
Hmm.
When I came up with the story when I was about 16 years old, I wanted some characters who I felt that I could know. Because while you love Superman and Batman and Captain America and all this, like you can't really know those characters, or you don't really know those kind of people in real life usually. So when I came up with these characters, I wanted to base them off of people that I knew. Or at least have that idea of that personality of people that I knew around me. And I wanted to give them something that was really grounded in reality, that were problems that couldn't be fixed in a 24-page comic book. So giving them these backgrounds where they were mentally, physically, emotionally abused as children, no matter how many issues I put out, that problem is never going to be solved for them. That's something that they will always have to live with for their entire lives. So really, once I started getting into the story, and knowing what I wanted to do with each of these characters and their progression as people, I wanted to give them each very specific problems and ways that they handled those problems. Sarah, one of the main characters, Sarah is the fighter. She'll punch you in the face just to look at you, and that's how she handles problems. She will be physically abusive with you. Vince is the one that cracks jokes, that tries to like get out of the situation by making him or other people like laugh, or by making people nervous enough to be able to just walk away from him. Will is the other character that he tries to solve every problem. He's a problem solver. So no matter what the problem is, he will try to fix that problem. And it really all just stems with how they deal with the trauma that they have. The character that comes in later, Megan, she's the runner. That's why we don't. That's why we haven't seen her. We don't see her for the first 14 issues, because when the going got tough, she ran. And that's the problem that's how she handles the problems that she has. And that's the thing that she's going to have to overcome to be able to be successful in life. As they go through all these monsters and these bad guys that they're fighting, they're all kind of analogies for the way they handle those situations. And the time travel, uh, other than just being fun to be able to do a whole bunch of different eras and stuff like that, it really was for me, an analogy of the more you know, the better you are equipped to be able to handle things. So with each progressive jump back in time, these characters are gaining more knowledge and gaining more knowledge and being able to handle these situations a little bit better. While they're handling the situation, or gaining this knowledge and trying to handle these situations to the best of their ability, the bad guys just keep pushing them down, and pushing them down, and pushing them down, much like life would. So I'm about halfway through the time travel story right now. They are, if anybody's ever read any of my books, you know that I just destroy my characters. They take one step forward and they get pushed back 20 steps from that. So they're in a place now where they think they're in control of the time travel on some level, and then they come to realize that they have no control over this whatsoever. They're just going to be pushed around, and they're going to be beat up through these different jumps through time. And like I said, there's an overall reason why I'm building up to I think a really fun story with the malice in us all, that'll really help these kids connect. One of the other things I did for leaving a character by leaving a character out for 14 issues was I gave the first three characters a chance to bond.
Hmm.
So they, at the end, right before we meet Megan officially, one of the main characters, Sarah, who is not a joiner, she doesn't like people. She says the main tagline of the story, which is, "Where's your safe place?" And they have this discussion, and she says, I wanted to tell you guys, I've never felt a connection to anywhere, anybody, but the three of us together, this is my safe place. I know the three of us can handle anything. The next issue, they're throwing a curveball with this new character that doesn't trust them at all, doesn't know them at all, doesn't want anything to do with them. So it really is a test for not only the three of them having the ability to be able to trust themselves, but this fourth character, and to be able to trust the three main characters, and to trust herself enough to know that she'll be able to handle things. So it really is, for me, just a fun way to be able to think about different analogies of how to deal with life and new people and circumstances that are beyond your control.
Cool. I think.
Definitely. I know we've discussed in the past what you planned on the length of the series being.
Mhm.
You said you're halfway through the time travel story.
Mhm.
So where does that place you in the story as a whole? assuming you're able to finish the entire thing.
Yeah, I'm a little halfway. Don't assume I'm going to finish the entire thing. I'm finishing the entire thing.
Oh.
Nice.
That's hard for indie creators, I know, but I'm going to do it. I'm
Yeah.
going to do it. It's
Yeah.
no ifs, ands, or buts.
Good.
I'm, like I said, issue 28. I'm almost done. I was working on inks for issue 29, so I'm hoping to have that done and out um, before the New Year's, but I'm going to start promoting it maybe a couple weeks after the New Year, so everybody can kind of calm down because they're not really looking for stuff to buy at that point. So I'm going to get it rolled out, and then I'm going to really start showing it off maybe 2 weeks into January. But that it really does put me in a place where I am more than halfway done with the time travel stories, and there's two main things that I always want to get through for each of the omnibuses, each of the big story arcs, and that's how the growth of the characters, how the
Mhm.
characters see themselves, how the characters see each other, and where it places them in the overall story arc of the 50 issues that I want to do. And once we get out of the time travel stuff, it becomes alternate universe stuff. Which
Nice.
is I can't wait for people to see it because it's gonna take these four characters and really flip them on their heads, and test them in a completely different way than I've done so far, which is just throwing monsters at each other and throwing this trauma at these characters. So it's I think
That's
it's going to be
cool.
a really interesting, fun ride. I can't wait to get it started.
Yeah,
And
that's awesome.
and what I find interesting to this day, like you're one of the few indie creators who isn't like on Kickstarter or something like that 24/7. You've been using, I believe, Amazon
Mhm.
publishing.
Yeah, for the most part, I do Amazon. I'm on Lulu. I'm on Global Comics, and I'm working on getting on a couple other more digital formats. But for the
Yeah.
most part, yeah, I exclusively go through Amazon, and it's going pretty good. Global Comics has done well for me also. I don't like print, 1,000 copies of every issue. I print what I need to be able to sell for cons and be able to give to local shops around the area. But I don't have a big, huge print. I don't know at this point with 28 issues of The Offspring, a 4-issue miniseries, 2 graphic novels, and 5 one-shots if I could even afford to print to do a big time print of all those books. So the way that I'm doing it is a little weird, a little unconventional, but it works well for me. It gives me an opportunity to be able to show off my stuff and to continue creating, which is really my
And,
ultimate goal.
and how has the Amazon publishing for the physical editions how has that differed over the years? Because I've heard rumors of it getting worse, or just maybe not as much of an emphasis on it.
Yeah, the way that I feel they have it set up is if you want to do it, and it's up to like Amazon's not going to help you at all, but they'll give you the means to be able to promote it, and to be able to have it there, to be able to promote and for people to be able to go. So to be able to have, for me, it's having links up on the website, it's having links on Facebook, and the thing about in any other social media. And the thing about that is, again, Facebook's not going to help me. It's got to be
Mhm.
me because their algorithm is going to show 3 people, and my hope is that those 3 people share it, or the other 5,000 people that are on whatever of my social medias will eventually see the thing. So there might be people out there who haven't seen issue 12, or haven't had a link to issue 12, or haven't seen that one reel with the great new artwork that I put out, or whatever it is. I really am playing kind of like the long game of of everyone will eventually see it, and it's just that right person, or 10 people or 20 or 100 people, to be able to see it, for it to kind of take that next step. And it might happen tomorrow, it might happen a year from now, it might happen when I've got all 50 issues done.
Mhm.
But I know just the way that I keep going at it, it's gonna happen.
And that's something, because I've been watching some of your TikToks recently, and I was looking over. What is your strategy with that, or are you just shooting by the hip and having fun with it? Like what's going on with TikTok and the Offspring? And
Yeah, so TikTok actually has really been helpful, but as you guys probably know, getting on the social media and getting putting stuff out there is a lot harder than it seems. Like if
Mhm.
you're the person who is on there every day and putting up new videos every single day, and has the ability to be able to do that, it works out okay. But if you're somebody who's got other things going on and you can't every day put out a video, it's really tough. So yeah, there's often times where I'm like, oh, that's a good idea for a video, and I'll throw it against the wall and see if it sticks. There's some series that I've started, and I'll have two or three of that series out, and then I'll have to move along to something else. So it really is kind of just me having fun, showing off the artwork, showing off the stuff, and hoping that at some point I'll get 300, 400, 500 views on it, and then it'll drive people to the website. And that's why I start with and I end with every time Correct Hand of Comics, correcthandofcomics.com. Just as anybody would, just like anybody would, just to try to drive them to the website to be able to see everything we have.
Yeah.
Definitely. I concur. I don't know what the hell's going on in those apps, because the thing I spend the least amount of time on gets 500 views, and the thing that I spend the most amount of time on gets 2. So
Yeah.
It makes no sense. Right?
Yeah.
But I'm also, I'm an old man now. TikTok's beyond me.
And I mean, like you said, you've put out all these volumes and you have quite a few comics out, and now you have 2 omnibuses available. With almost 13 issues each.
Yeah.
Which is crazy for the price, because it's like under $50 on Amazon right now. It's like $45 or something right now.
Yeah.
That's a lot of comics for that. So that's pretty great. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Once I've got them out, and like I said, the only thing it really cost me is time.
Right.
Once I've got it out and it's been out for a year, I'll drop the price down, because really, ultimately, I just want people to see it. I just want people to read it. I know that I'm not going to be able to retire.
Right.
I'm not going to be able to buy my, 4th house or my 3rd yacht or whatever from publishing comic books. So really, the ultimate goal is just to have as many people see it as possible. So if that means I have to sell a 13-issue omnibus for $40, in the hopes that somebody else will go, oh, $40 for 13 comics and some extra stuff in there. Okay, I'll give this guy a shot, and hopefully that means that they'll stick around for the rest of the story.
So what extra stuff do you have in there? Do you have some like page layouts and stuff in those?
Yeah,
omnibus?
I'll sometimes throw scripts in there. I'll throw in my scripts is a strong word, by the way. I'd say usually bullet points and for mine.
Some notes.
But I'll throw in some maybe alt covers that I've had, or some thumbnails in there. I'll throw in some character bios from time to time. But I'll try to always put something in there. Maybe some of the promos that I use. I try to have a promo for each issue that I have. So I'll throw in like maybe just a gallery of the promos for the omnibuses, and in the hopes that to get the page numbers up, also to feel like people can feel like they're getting the best bang for their buck.
Yeah, that's really cool.
If your scripts are just thumbnails, I mean, how does your artist work with that? I don't understand.
I'm the artist. I do it all. So. Sometimes I do. Sometimes my handwriting is a little chicken scratch. I'm like, what did I write there?
Your artist must be like, what the hell is he talking about?
Yeah.
Like, I don't remember what I was saying when I wrote this note.
Oh, there are times I'm like, oh my gosh, I had something really cool for this. I'm like, I'll remember it when I was thumbnailing it out. I'll remember that. That's a great idea. I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go. What did I want to do?
That's the notes.
Usually that
that's
means
the notes section on my phone.
That.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The notes. Yeah. I do.
I'll
the
just
same
look
thing.
back at notes on my phone. I'll be like, "What the fuck was I saying?
What was I? When did I write this?
Was I drunk when this happened?"
Yeah. And it's fun too, but that also gives me the opportunity, because I was trying to make parallels from each story arc, inside of, and I'll have the people, if they've read my stuff for a long time, notice that I'll have some paneling that is similar, from the big story arcs and the big moments, to be able to make those parallels and bring those moments together, to be able to see how they connect to each other. I'll have a bunch of background stuff that will pop up later on. So if you kind of if you've read my stuff for a while, you'll see some of the background stuff, some of those hints of things that'll happen later. And that's for me the fun part, but it also gives me a chance to be able to kind of look back and go, how can I parallel this better? So at the end of the time travel story, I have a great parallel from one of the things that happened way back in issue 6. So it's kind of the kids learning from their experiences, to be able to better handle their stuff, like we talked about. So and being able to have those similar visuals for me connects those bridges being built for their learning and their understanding of how to do it better.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
I was gonna say, now that you're almost 30 issues in, and you've done more comics than that too. We'll talk a little bit about one shots later. But do you ever have to go back and reread your own books to be like, did I already do this, or what was the continuity here? Like, is that else? Or do you have a good memory, or are you are you much of a goldfish as I am, where you can't remember what you had for breakfast this morning?
I have selective goldfish memory. So for normal everyday things, my wife and I have a conversation, and 5 minutes later, she's like, "Did you do that thing?" And I'm like, "What? What are you talking about? I have no idea. I do not recall this. This doesn't sound like
Yep.
something I'd say." And she yells me all the time for it, but I usually get it done. But for things like The Offspring or things like my comics, I remember like I did it myself. You know, like I was one of the characters. So sometimes with that continuity, I want to say how I'll have to go back and like make sure that it tracks with the character traits or whatever or something that they had said, because like I said, I've had these characters since I was 8, 16, 17 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So I know them pretty well, and I know what they said and what they'll do, and I've got all 50 issues mapped out, so I know exactly where it's going to go, and how I want them to progress through the story. So no, I don't really have any problems with the continuity. Um, really, the thing that I try to do is once I know what I've got to do and I know where I want to get these characters, how do I plus it up? What can I do to rev it up? What can I do to rev up the action, or rev up the character moment, or rev up the pain, or rev up the whatever it is, the joke, or make the joke funnier, whatever it is. That's really my main goal as I move now in the second half, like finishing up the next 20 to 21 issues that I have to do. So it really is just about being the best communicator of the story as I possibly can be.
Yeah, it is certainly a lot of stuff to remember and keep track of just on your own too. Though
It is. Yeah.
that's a big feat in itself. All right, so you have the Offspring, but you also have some other stuff available on the front page of your website too. And I think we might have talked about some of this before, but now that it's available, so you do a little bit of help out for people that want to get into comics here. You have a practice coloring pages workbook. Do you want to talk about that for a second?
Yeah, it really was, for me, just a fun way to be able to get something out from maybe creators because I hear all the time, where colorists or letterers or whatever will say, where do you find stuff to practice on this? And at this point, the internet, is the answer. The internet is the answer for most of those questions. But I thought it'd really be a fun thing to do, to be able to put out a book of some of the pages that I enjoyed the most. And it's pages from The Offspring, it's pages from Late Lightspeed, it's pages from my one shots, it's pages from almost every book that I have that I've published. And it really is just something that I thought would be fun to be able to, one, put together and put out, and two, to see if anybody bought it and colored those pages and showed it to us, and I put it on the website, and to be able to see different interpretations of those pages compared to what I did.
I think that's a really cool idea.
Thanks.
I don't think I would be very good at trying to color them, but
Well, oftentimes I'll get it's my hope too that it's kids, who are like, that's a cool coloring book. Can I get in? And suddenly they have Crayola all over the book, and they're colored.
I was never good at staying in the lines. Anyways. I always had
Me
that
neither.
problem. Yeah.
I'll show you some of the pages from my Dune coloring book, Mike, one of these days.
Oh yeah. Is that because they're really good or because they're really bad?
Oh, listen, I will burn it and buy a new coloring book if I go outside those lines.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
All right. We have a perfectionist here. And then you have this other book, Late in Lightspeed, which is pretty interesting to me. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah,
what
I
that
put
book
out,
is?
this is my second 100+ page graphic novel.
Mhm.
The first one I put out, gosh, it had to be about 5 years ago, and I wanted to put out another graphic novel. And I've had the story for a few years. And really, the basis of the story is that there is an 87-year-old scientist who Earth and other planets in the solar system, so it's in the future, where there is space travel, uh, have gone through a pandemic that just wiped out most of the population in the sectors and the planets in the sector around them. So there are scientists who are trying to work on technology to be able to help each of the planets rebuild their populations, and it's not going well. So the main character, is an 87-year-old man, Lane Lightspeed, who is a scientist working on cloning technology. As we go through the story, we realize that he and his daughter have perfected cloning technology, and a mole inside of their lab immediately contacted the soon-to-be antagonist, who was a major in the military of another planet, who has been kidnapping scientists to try to help them rebuild their population. And it really is just the story of how this 87-year-old man who was sick himself, um, he dies, and his daughter transfers his memories into a 9-year-old clone of himself. So it is how this 87-year-old man deals with being in the clone of himself as a 9-year-old, and they're still trying to perfect this technology and get it to the right people to be able to help rebuild the population, and how this other alien general is chasing them, kidnaps him, and tries to get him to use that technology for his own purposes.
I think it's a really cool premise, and being 84-year old and cloned into a 9-year-old's body with having all that wisdom and knowledge, right? Yeah.
Can you imagine going through puberty a second time?
Yeah, yeah. The fun thing
Yeah,
for me
it'd be...
about it is a lot of my stories are that nurture versus nature. Like if you were to
Uh-huh.
take somebody out of the environment that maybe they should have grown up in and place them
Yep.
into another environment, how would that affect them personally? Their mannerisms, their life, how they handle situations. And for me, it really is that same idea of nurture versus nature. We come to find as we go through the story, that he's kind of losing his memories, and he's kind of reverting back to what a regular 12-year-old would be. And they're trying to that's like the ticking clock of trying to get this technology into the hands of the people that need it, and to get him rescued from the bad guys. That's kind of the ticking clock of, can they get it in time before he is not himself anymore. There's another family aspect of it also that I won't give away, but I think the story ends in a really satisfying way, but also has that little turn, that little twist of, this is where we'll go for the next one. And I think it's a really good emotional twist at the very end. While it does seem to be fade to black credits roll, there's a whole another aspect of this story that kind of can burst wide open after that one little cliffhanger thing at the very end.
Okay. Cool. So you leave
Definitely.
it open maybe for some more stuff.
Yeah, I seem to remember we talked about this before. You see this as a series of graphic novels, right?
Most of my books, I'll have more. There's always, I say, there's more there. So
Hmm.
whether it's a 24-page one shot, or the 100-page graphic novels, or my 4-issue miniseries, there's always more. I always know what I want to do in the next story and have an idea of where those characters could go. I haven't quite gotten to any sequels for any of those one shots, or graphic novels, or 4-issue miniseries, but I know where I would go. Once I took about a year to do Late Lightspeed, so I kind of put Offspring to the side and was just doing thumbnails and making sure that I was staying kind of on track with that. But after taking a year off from the Offspring to be able to produce this Late Lightspeed, the next 100+ pager, I was like, now I need to focus on getting Offspring done.
Yeah.
So anything, maybe after another 12 issues and I get a third omnibus out, maybe I want to be able to go back and do some sequels to some of these things. But right now, the Offspring is the main priority, the main goal, the flagship. We're chugging forward to be able to get that story done.
Awesome.
And I know you've always had your website, Correct Handed Comics, to go to where everybody can see everything there.
Mhm.
Do you have anything coming up in the terms of like cons or doing any public appearances? I know you said you have some books they usually bring to there. Anything on
Yeah.
schedule yet?
Right now, I think there's one in March that I'm probably going to be going to. There's one in Syracuse. I'm trying to remember the name of it right now, but it's a toy comic fair in
Okay.
Syracuse that I'm probably going to get a table at. There, with the two children. My son is already in college, so kind of waiting out right before. It was funny, right before COVID, and that was what, 4 years ago now. So it's not really an
Yeah.
excuse anymore. But I was ready for like 4 or 5 cons throughout the year,
Hmm.
and then it all just put the kibosh on it, like everything else. So once that kind of started getting back into normalcy, I was like, how about I just put out books? There's 1 or 2 cons that I do throughout the year, that are fun and really easy to get to, and I do a great job of it's a great opportunity to be able to sell books and be able to get my stuff out there. But I'm probably gonna wait maybe another year to be able to start doing cons, and I want to do some in Pennsylvania, in Ohio, try to get down over to Rhode Island and New Jersey to be able to
Yep.
start like really branching out, in some of the states around here in upstate New York where I am, to be
Cool.
able to continue to get the word out. So
Yeah. No, I think that's
Yeah.
great. Yeah, Syracuse in March, if weather permitting, I might have to check that one out too.
yeah, yeah, no. Weather permitting is the the big
Yeah,
caveat there.
Syracuse in March is
I,
it's a scary time.
I think don't feel bad because ever since COVID as well, I've been like, this year I'm getting back into cons, and then
Yeah,
like
it's
Yeah.
just life and money and everything
Yeah.
gets in the way.
It's
Yep.
hard. It's really difficult. Like I said, I think my main goal is always just producing comics. So
Hmm.
if I can produce comics and like plus up the con work, and plus up the social media work,
Yep.
or plus up the website somehow, then I still feel I'm successfully moving forward. Yeah, you can find me on most social media, on X or on Facebook or on TikTok or on Instagram. Either look up David Whalen or Correct Handed Comics, and you'll be able to find it. There are links to all my social media on our website, correcthandedcomics.com, and linked to every book I've ever created on the website, correcthandedcomics.com, in print and digital, there to be able to purchase. And like I said, I know it's hard sometimes for people to give long-term storytelling for indie comics a shot, but give one of the one shots a shot, or give the graphic novel a shot, and see if you like what I'm doing. And if you do, come on board for the Offspring. I think it's a really fun ride, and I think most people will enjoy it.
Definitely. And to everybody out there, you should know what's going on by now. I don't understand why I have to keep saying it every week, but I do. In the show notes down below, I'll have the link to Correct Handed Comics website as well as some of David's social media handles. So check those out there as well. Make sure to check out the books. David, thanks so much for stopping by, man. Chatting for a little bit. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you guys
Thank
again
you.
for having me on. Again, I really appreciate it. Always fun time.